everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be adding depth and dimension to our flowers by ink blending. This technique works best if you have two different shades in the color family, like a light red or a dark red. So the die that I'm going to be using is the Fresh Cut Flowers from Gina Designs. I'm going to take the two solid pieces and die cut them from some layering weight white cardstock, and I'm going to die cut multiples of these. Then I'm taking the outline pieces and I'm going to die cut those from some mirror gold cardstock. Then we are going to jump right into the ink blending. I'm starting with the solid piece that I die cut from the layering weight white cardstock, and I'm using Red Hot ink from Gina Designs. I'm going to blend this on using my blending brush, and I'm holding my die cut piece down by ink blending on top of the Waffle Flower Media Mat, or actually I think this is the Stencil mat. It is a silicone mat, so it's kind of holding my die cut in place while I ink blend, and I am just applying a nice light layer of this color, and we are going to build on top of this. Next, I'm going to bring in Cherry Red, and to do this part, I'm going to use a mini ink blending brush. So I picked up some of the ink, dabbed off on the side there, and then I'm starting in the center and blending out, but I'm not blending all the way to the edge. I want the darkest color to be in the center and just kind of have it fading off to the edge. So you can see how this is looking with my die cut outline over the top, but I did want to step it up just a little bit. So if I were to recommend right now, I would say like the Red Hot and then the Faded Brick, which is what I ended up bringing in to just really intensify that center color. One of the really great things about using Gina's inks is if your blend is not completely smooth, like I left kind of a harsh area in the center, for one, her inks will dry back and smooth out as they dry. But also another thing to keep in mind is that when we place those outlines on top, you're not really going to see those small imperfections. Now here is a look at all the flowers that I did and their outline and how this is looking so far. Now I can move on to my leaves. So I did the same thing with the leaves. I die cut them from white cardstock, the main base piece, and I'm starting by ink blending on some light spruce, just a nice light layer. I had die cut the outline from fresh asparagus, but I end up changing that later on in my card. So right now I'm adding that depth and dimension by adding dark spruce, and this was really cool. I was really loving the two shades on the leaves, not so much the dark cardstock, which is why I decided to change it up. The dark cardstock for the outline would have looked really great if I wouldn't have added that shading, but you know me, I need to do my ink blending. Now to add a little interest to my leaves and my flowers, I have some Copic white ink that I mixed with a little bit of water, and I'm flicking this all over my flowers. If you want to get finer splatters, you can take some of that ink, put it on an acrylic block, and then flick it on to your flowers. Just depends on what size splatters you would like. I'm going to set those off on the side to dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and start working on adhering everything together. Now I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to my flowers, so I die cut all of those outline pieces in some heavyweight cardstock as well, and using the Connect glue that I have in a fine tip bottle, I'm going to add this first layer to my base piece of the flower. And I will say I had a hard time deciding if I wanted to leave the white outline or add the gold on top. I went with the gold because I already had it die cut and I loved it, but that white option looks really pretty too. So as I'm adding these on, I am placing something heavy over the top to let that sit for a few seconds and really adhere down together. These flowers would look really great on just a plain white background, but I kind of wanted to step it up a little bit, so I brought in the Graceful Snowflake Stencil. I'm holding that down over the layering weight white cardstock using my Make Art Station, and then I'm going to take some soft stone ink, and this is just a really nice light gray. I'm going to start in the center of the stencil, the darkest area, and then I'm going to blend out and have it fade off into the white of the cardstock. Once again, I'm not as concerned about the center because I knew my flower arrangement was going to cover most of that. Once I have that done and ink blended, I'm going to die cut out this panel using the Master Layout 2 die, and this is the straight edge. There is a stitched edge, but this one is just the straight edge. And then I'm applying this to a piece of cardstock cut to the same size because the layering weight is a little lighter in weight, so I wanted to add some stability to that. and then I'm going to attach it to some red velvet cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. For my sentiment for the front of the card, I am going to use the Holiday Silhouettes stamp set. It has some really beautiful, simple sentiments on here. So I'm going to add this to a piece of black Onyx cardstock that I'm prepping with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp this twice in white pigment ink. After I stamp that down gently, we don't want to push too hard and distort those letters. I'm going to sprinkle on my white embossing powder, and then once my heat tool is nice and hot, I'm going to start from the back, heat that up a little bit, and then come to the front and melt that embossing powder. You could trim the sentiment out with your paper trimmer, but I really like to use the sentiment strips, and this one is the large strip sentiments that fit that larger sentiment perfectly. I sped up this portion of the card process quite a bit because it does take me a while to kind of fiddle with my arrangement, but what I like to do is I arrange it on the card front and then I kind of pick each section up and I start to slowly assemble it. So I added the leaves behind the flowers. You could definitely arrange it and then pick it up with press and seal, but I don't know, I've just always loved kind of arranging it and then picking it up piece by piece. Now, I also did bring in some white die cuts that I did from the Foliage Fillers die set. I almost forgot I had that. I haven't used it in a while, and it is perfect. Now, they do kind of get lost with my busy background there. I still think they look really cool, so if you had just a plain white background, those would definitely stand out a lot more. I'm starting to adhere everything to the front of the card, and I'm going to use foam squares to attach it to pop it up just a little bit. I'm also going to add foam squares behind my black sentiment and add a little bit of liquid glue there so I have some wiggle room to kind of move that around as needed. Then I'll just place something heavy on top and let that sit for a minute to secure down to the card front. Now, I couldn't help but embellish, so I am bringing in the clear quartz sequence mix, and I'm attaching those using my jewel picker and also my Connect glue, and then I added some white pearls to the center of the flowers. And that's going to finish up my card project for you for today. I hope this has helped you and maybe given you some tips along the way about how to add depth and dimension to your flat die cuts by just doing some ink blending. I will have all of my supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. And if you're not already a subscriber, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you're notified when new videos are posted. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you again soon.